Hey everyone, we have a very interesting patch today because we have the meta snapshot for patch 14.4, which is going to be the patch the World Championship is going to be played on. So luckily for us, we still have to climb the ladder a little bit, so let's just get right into the comps. In the S tier, we have Heartsteel Ezreal, Senna Reroll, Katarina Reroll, Lulu, Seraphine, Kayle, and Riven Reroll. Lots of Reroll right now, so it's pretty much Heartsteel or Reroll. After that, we have Pentakill, Twisted Fate Disco, Executioner Reroll, Annie Reroll, Country, Ahri Warriors, Punk, Misfortune, Yasuo, True Damage, Twin Terror, and Yone. And then lastly in the B tier, these are like super situational, Ahri, Olaf, and Caitlyn comps. So let's start off with Heartsteel. We had like a very nice video kind of summarizing how to play a lot of the Heartsteel comp. Essentially, you want to have it as early as you can, as often as you can, but you could also play it in the later parts of the game, such as Stage 4. Stage 4 is actually where you get a lot of the power out of the Heartsteel comp because you get a lot of components or extra items if you manage to lose streak there. For the most part though, you just want to fast 8, follow a pretty standard leveling pattern, get to level 8, roll down for a board similar to this above. You just play set frontline plus Bruiser plus Mosher, and then have Ezreal and Zed as your damage dealers, depending on what items you have in the early game. The level 9 board is pretty much the same thing, but with legendaries, and that's pretty much the summary of the comp. If you want more details on this comp or any of the other comps we're going to cover, head on over to bunnymuffins.lol/meta, where we update the meta snapshot every single week. Next comp up we have is Senna Reroll. Lots of reroll right now. This is going to be the first one we're going to cover. I like having true damage Senna, very powerful. You get to 6 true damage very easily. And then you just throw a bunch of ability power items plus 1 mana item or attack speed items on your Senna. She just mows everything down, get her to 3-star, level up, put in an Akali, throw in a Qiyana later on, and also play Superfan the whole time because you get Guardian, you get Sentinel for free, and make sure you also add in a Rapidfire if you don't have Rapidfire Headliner for Senna. This comp gets even stronger if you get something like a Spatula, but overall, just level up to level 6, follow a 2-cost reroll pattern. Let's go over that right now because we have a lot of 2-cost reroll coming up. For level 4, level up at around stage 2-3, do not press the level up button, and also do not roll. Same thing for level 5, except you normally hit it around stage 3-1. Level 6, you hit that at stage 3-2. Normally, I like rolling a little bit here, and if you are low on gold, you could level up at stage 3-5 and then do what's called a slow roll, rolling down to 50 gold every single turn. If you don't know what a slow roll is, we kind of have like a nice little article here again on the website. But after that, just play this board minus Akali, minus Qiyana at your level 6. We have Nico, Echo, Lilia, Kennen, Aphelios, and Senna. Depending on your headliner, you want to remove a rapid fire or maybe add in another true damage, and that's really all you have to do there. Next up we have is Katarina Reroll. Same exact leveling pattern as before, except this time instead of going for 6 true damage, you're going to go for 6 Crowd Diver. What's really nice about this build is that Katarina loves Hand of Justice, and her Superfan item is a Hand of Justice. So you just get one of her best items for free. So just add in a Jeweled Gauntlet on her. She's going to get 100% critical strike chance with this build, or at least something really close to it if it isn't already there, which means she just does a ton of damage. Add in Zed as a secondary carry in the late game after you level up and get her 3-star. And also put Qiyana in front of their item holders. Normally, if I do an AFK positioning, I'm going to put my Qiyana in the front and center, but sometimes you need to move her to the left or right depending on where the enemy's carries are. Next up we have is Lulu Reroll. This one is going to be a 3-cost reroll, so you do something very similar to how you play the 2-cost reroll, except you want to roll on level 7 instead of level 6. You're going to be running the Superfans as well, and if you built a Shojin and a Nashor's early thinking you're going to go Senna, the items look very, very similar. So you could run both the Senna and the Lulu comps and the Seraphine comp actually like super easily depending on which units you hit, because all of them share the same exact items. As for the late game, they did buff the later parts of Spellweaver, so getting into something like 7 Spellweaver definitely is a pretty interesting thing to do in the super late game. But before you get there, add in an Ahri, throw a blue buff on her and other items. It could be a Gunblade, it could be damage items, really doesn't matter. The blue buff is what I would prioritize, and then get attack speed items for Sona, such as maybe like a Static Shiv, a Rage Blade, things like that. If you don't have a Static Shiv, get an Ionic Spark on your Nico, and you're going to be good to go there. Next comp up, we have a Seraphine Reroll. Literally the same comp, just do a 2-cost reroll pattern and itemize Seraphine instead of Lulu. You're good to go after that. Next comp up we have is Kayle Reroll. Kayle Reroll is going to use as many Rage Blades as you can humanly get. Luckily, Superfan item is going to be a Rage Blade, so if you can get 2 extra ones and have triple Rage Blade, fantastic. If not, get like a Gunblade. You could also have some sort of damage item on her if you have healing from an augment, but I do really recommend having some sort of healing on Kayle because there's a lot of backline access, and typically team comps that last a long time into a fight, such as a Kayle comp, and Kayle usually wants to last a long time because she wants to stack her Rage Blade. having some sort of healing is really, really crucial for those comps. But essentially, roll at level 6, do like the 2-cost reroll pattern, Mordekaiser main tank, Viego as your late game, run the super fans, except this time instead of Kennen, you're going to run Gnar because he's a pentakill, and then drop in as many pentakills as you can. So Viego, Gnar, Mordekaiser, Karthus, and then you could throw in an Akali because she gives both Executioner and KDA, and you could potentially itemize her if you do have enough time to do so. Going to be really good on those portals, which give a ton of items because you have like so many different people to itemize. Kayle, Viego, Mordekaiser, Akali, and Karthus. That's like 5 different units you could potentially put items on. Stuff like Thieves' Gloves works really, really, really well because no one's able to get, 5 times 3 items, 15 items a game? That's a lot. So having a Thieves' Gloves, super duper helpful. Next up we have is Riven Reroll. Riven Reroll is one of my favorite comps because it just flows so easily. You just want to get a bunch of combat augments. We look at the augments on the right-hand side, like Harm Assist really good, Jeweled Lotus really good. Almost anything works on Riven. There are kind of 2 ways to approach it. You could either go for econ augments to kind of get Riven 3-star really, really quickly and snowball the game and level up and throw something else in. But if you are all in and having just like a super Riven, I like going triple combat augment. It's going to depend on the portal, going to depend on how much econ you have at the start of the game, whether you streaked or not, things like that. But just run 4 or 6 8-bit. If you ever get 8-bit spatula, drop it on Viego. It is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Like 6 8-bit Viego, it's better than the Riven, believe it or not. But the only important thing I want you all to know about Riven is that you really need a Quicksilver Sash on Riven. That's why it's kind of highlighted in the item selection here. It is just the most important item on her because you need her to constantly be able to auto attack. If you do not get that, you want to get some sort of crowd control immunity from something like a support item such as Banshee's Veil, or maybe from one of the augments. But honestly, like, those are kind of rare, so just build the Quicksilver. What's good about this comp is that you could use a lot of Negatron cloaks. You want it for 1 Even Shroud for armor penetration, you want it for Bloodthirster, and you want it for Quicksilver, so that's a neat little thing you could do with this comp. You could essentially go for one of the quote-unquote bad items. Next comp up we have is the A tiers. A tiers are still pretty solid, nothing crazy, but obviously the S tiers are going to be what people are going to be playing a ton. But Pentakill is going to be the first comp there. Classic 4-cost comp, not as powerful as the Heartsteel comp, but it's one of those comps where you could play Heartsteel and then pivot into this comp if you happen to get Karthus headliner or Akali or Viego headliner. Just play the Pentakills, they're pretty solid. Nothing crazy, you're going to get outscaled a bit later, but overall this comp will do just fine in the mid game and hopefully get some like 3rds or 2nds. And if you do manage to like win streak a lot in stage 4 and stage 5, you could go to higher levels, play legendaries, and potentially win the game. Next comp up we have is Twisted Fate Disco Dazzler. Very similar to the Viego comp or like the Pentakill comp we saw before, except this is what you do when you get a lot of ability power items. You have so many people to itemize here. You have 2 tanks, you have Blitzcrank and Alawi. You could even run Thresh in this comp later on too, or even Yorick. After that, we have Sona, Twisted Fate, and Ziggs in the backline. Just throw as many ability power items as you can on them. Make sure you get at least 5 Disco so that you get 2 Disco Balls, and having like 3 Spellweaver pretty useful and at least 2 Dazzler. The great thing about this comp is that you could use any version of Headliner Twisted Fate. Both Dazzler and Disco work, but for Blitzcrank, I would really prefer having the Disco variation. The Sentinel one is definitely a lot weaker, but hey, sometimes if you're desperate, you have to take it. Next comp up we have is Executioners. Executioner Reroll is really reliant on Vex and Samira, and I actually like this comp a lot right now because it's not too contested. In previous patches, everyone was going for Vex and Amumu as splash units, and that kind of meta is kind of gone now, so it's much easier to hit this type of build. The only issue with this is that the times where you spike is a little awkward right now because a lot of people are playing 2-cost reroll, so they kind of knock you out really hard until you get like Vex 3 or Samira 3 or Amumu 3 to really stabilize your board. That's one little annoying thing about this comp right now. Next comp up we have is Ahri Reroll. Very solid 1-cost comp. Data-wise, it's one of the best. You want to do a level 5 slow roll for this comp. It's just like a 1-cost reroll leveling pattern. Pretty much do not touch your level up button for the first part of the game, and then once you hit Ahri 3, you're allowed to level up and then play all the other units you see here. Emo Ahri is very preferred, and you definitely want to play at least 4 Emo. 6 Emo is what I like a lot, and having 2 mana items on her is absolutely super duper powerful. So like the build might look weird, but with Emo, you just want to cast as quickly as you can so that Ahri gets her empowered cast sooner during the fight. And then as long as you have some sort of magic resist penetration, such as through the Ionic Spark, you're going to be very good to go. Next comp up we have is Country Reroll. Just a solid 3-cost reroll comp. It's really good because Country did get like a slight buff with the spatula. 7 Country is a bit better, so if you do manage to hit that, you're going to be a little stronger than you were in the past, and very, very welcome because the comp was already pretty solid, but the buffs are definitely more than welcome. When you play Country comps, you want to flex between this and the Executioner comp, and just make sure you itemize your Samira differently based on those 2 comps. In Country Reroll, you want Infinity Edges, preferably 2 of them, but 1 is okay. And then in the Executioner comp, you want as much attack damage as possible. So the builds are a little bit different. Just keep that in mind whenever you are playing Samira. The reason why is because Country does not give critical strike chance, and Samira loves critical strike chance, so you need to get her to 100%. But if you do the Executioner build, she gets so much of it from her trait that you do not need to build the Infinity Edge. But just do 3-cost reroll pattern here. You have so many 3-costs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So obviously the best augment you could ever get with this comp is called Three's Company, I believe. That's the one where you get bonus health based on how many 3-cost units that you play. Next comp up we have is Ahri Warriors. Just another superfan comp, this time revolving around Ahri. So if you are able to get to level 8, flex between Zed and Ahri as your headliner, keep the superfans from the early game and go from there. So maybe you went for like some reroll comp and you built a Nashor's Tooth or something like that, and you're like, hey, I'm not seeing any Lulus, not seeing any Seraphines, not seeing any Sennas. What do? I still have the superfans. Well, you could go level 8 and go something like this, assuming you did not hit the pentakills. If you ever get like a mixed set of items, this is another good comp to go for because you have an AD item holder and you have an AP item holder, and you could have some random unit hold some of the support items such as your Seraphine with the Static Shib and the Morello Namicon. But generally just like a standard leveling comp, go level 8, get the 4 costs, and use this to go into higher levels, and essentially just flex this comp into the late game. Next comp up we have is Punk Reroll. Super strong if you're trying to climb to Diamond, one of the best ones there is, because it's super easy to play and you reach like a relatively strong power, pretty much guaranteed every single game. I'm not going to say absolutely guaranteed, but like with Punk Rerolls where you get 1 free refresh every single turn, you're most likely going to hit Jinx 3 very, very quickly. You power level up, throw in a Pantheon, get Pantheon 3-star. Maybe you get enough to get Twitch going and get Twitch 3-star, throw items on Jinx, Pantheon on Twitch, and you're good to go. If you get like a super duper amount of items from like portals or maybe some of your augments, you could itemize Amumu and Vex as well, as they are great utility units. Next comp up we have is Misfortune Reroll. Classic comp, really utilizing and abusing the Jazz mechanic. You get so many different traits here, and the great part about this is that you also get to run Superfan, get a nice free item for your Misfortune, and Misfortune's item is going to be Deathblade, which is probably her best item because she really, really loves attack damage. So the way you want to complement the attack damage is with attack speed. That's why people really like things like Guinsoo's Rageblade. Another thing that's interesting to build on her is Arunon's Hurricane because you get more value out of your Deathblade. But really, any sort of attack damage item works. Just make sure you have some sort of armor penetration, such as the Last Whisper or the Even Shroud. After that, we have Yasuo Reroll. Very solid 1-cost reroll build. I'd probably only play this if I have like maybe 6 Yasuos, at least 5 to start the game with perfect items, but if I don't have perfect items, maybe 6 Yasuos. And then you just play this for free and then go into some sort of regular true damage build, which we kind of went over before. So itemize Yasuo, then your Akali, then your Kiana. Always throw 1 random item on Echo, maybe like an Even Shroud on him. That's always pretty solid. Believe it or not, despite being true damage, they still really benefit from the Even Shroud because they still do a ton of physical damage. And you definitely want Echo's bling bonus, so that's why you want like a random item on him. Next comp up we have is True Damage. I guess we did not go over the True Damage comp. We went over the Senna comp. That is my bad, but they are all very, very similar. It's just all the True Damage units plus some random tank synergies. In this case, we have Blitzcrank and Thresh, but it could almost be any type of tank unit. And then in the backline, we have Caitlyn, preferably with the True Damage Spatula to get her really going. The great part about this comp is that no one goes for Caitlyn, so you should get Caitlyn 2-star pretty easily. The bad news is that it's a bit weaker than other comps, so do keep that in mind when you are playing this. Next comp up we have is Twin Terror. Only go for this if you have Twin Terror Augment. It's essentially the same exact build as the Executioner build, except instead of running 6 Executioner, you run 4 Executioner and then run extra copies of Vex and Samira, or Twitch, depending on who you have itemized. Sometimes you have Vex and Twitch itemized, sometimes you have Vex and Samira. Whoever you have itemized, add an extra unit in there, and then make Pantheon or Amumu your main tank. The main carry of this comp is going to be the Vex though. I think she is just the best executioner unit. Mana item, ability power item, and then a Morello is really good. Mana item could be blue buff or adaptive helm. Ability power item, I'd say Rabadon's Death Cap is by far the best one. And then obviously the Morello for anti-heal, but sometimes you could put a red buff on Twitch instead and then go for another damage item on Vex. Next comp up we have is Yone Reroll. A bit weaker right now from the 3 cost, but still solid if you do manage to hit it. I think Infinity Edge is mandatory on Yone. After that, some sort of healing item, Hand of Justice or the Bloodthirster, and then some sort of survivability item. Titan's Resolve is probably the best one. Edge of Night could be used too, or just go another healing or damage item on him. And then for the augments, very similar to the Riven augments, just go for combat augments. Anything that makes Yone stronger, so stuff like Lifesteal, stuff like Gifts from the Fallen is pretty solid because everyone dies and then he becomes a monster 1v9s anyways, things like that. Anything that adds stats to your units is going to be great for Yone, or if there's like a Radiant item, because you could put Radiant items on him, because he literally is the only person that matters in your comp. In the B tier, we have Ahri Sentinel. Ahri Sentinel, just like not a great comp because they nerfed Sentinel a while back, but it's still a solid option to play temporarily and then go into other things. So this is a bit nice to reference here. The comp is really cheap because you're running a bunch of 1 and 2 cost units, so you're able to potentially go level 9 and play some legendaries and then win that way. Next comp up we have is Olaf Reroll. Only play this if you have like maybe 6-7 Olafs with like perfect Olaf items, as many Titans Resolves as you can. Maybe you have too big to fail, maybe you have Gargantuan Resolve. That's the signals to go Olaf. I would kind of avoid this otherwise. One mistake I see people making is prioritizing Pentakill. Nope, Bruiser is going to be the best one to go for here. Pentakill is just like not as valuable for the Olaf. But if you were to ask me if you'd rather have 6 Bruiser or like 7 Pentakill, I'd probably have this 6 Bruiser in. Next comp up we have is Caitlyn Rapidfire Bruisers. It's just like an AD comp if you don't hit Ezreal. It's definitely a backup option. I'm going to leave it here in case people need to reference some sort of like random build you could do with Caitlyn. If you're flexing the front line. But this comp is super flexible. You could play almost anyone in the back line, almost anyone in the front line, so do keep that in mind. And then C tier, like, yeah, just don't play these. Just to sum up at the top, we did do this meta snapshot a little bit differently. I think I'm just going to start doing like a summary of each and every one of the comps, and then if you do want the details, of course, go onto the website. It's always going to remain extra detailed as always. So it's nice to have up if you're playing the game, alt tab, go to like Katarina Reroll if you're going for it, you forgot what units to go for, you forgot what augments are good, you forgot what items to get, things like that. Or even like check out the how to play section. That's probably where you're going to get the most value. Or maybe you don't get perfect items. What else should you build? They're all down there. So overall, like a pretty useful tool if you like use it, bookmark it, whatever, tell your friends. Telling your friends is probably the best thing you could ever do if you ever wanted to help me out. So if this video did help you, maybe share it with a friend who's like kind of getting into TFT, or maybe show your friends TFT as well. That'd be kind of cool too. But that is going to be it for me today. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'm not sure if I'm going to post an update next week because the meta is pretty stable and they are not going to do a B patch. So I'll probably see everyone maybe in 2 weeks. Maybe I throw in like a random video next week somewhere, but we'll have to see on that. So hopefully you all enjoyed this video and I hope to see you all next time.